let's go ahead and hop right on in to our commentary for Middle-earth lore. For those that don't know, in 2015, as you can see here, we did a lore series on YouTube. And it did all right with 65,000 views. It did all right on just the first episode. But it did not do all right enough to justify the amount of time it took. This was, like, seriously the most time-consuming series I've ever had the chance of being a part of. And it was insane. There were over 25 people involved in this project. Including people from Mythgard and representatives of the Tolkien Professor and the Tolkien Professor podcast. It was insane. This was a huge undertaking that involved a ton of time and effort. So I'm going to do some director's commentary, which I've been meaning to do for years now, on said episodes. So let's go ahead and get started with Chapter 1, The Shire.
Middle-earth. A land of great beauty and greater conflict. From small folk to ancient kingdoms, Middle-earth is the breeding ground for fantastical adventures and larger-than-life characters. This is the story of Middle-earth.
Yeah, we spent so much time on the intro. We probably spent too much time on the intro. Basically, I just wanted, like, the most epic shots we could possibly get of LOTRO and the Lord of the Rings, and also have a bit of Hobbit flair in there. And I think mission accomplished. Biv, nice to have you here as well. This shot at the end here took an unreal amount of time. So we had to make a map, first of all. So Zinger, famed Zinger, made us a map. He's good with Photoshop, so I was like, hey, that dude can make us a map. And so we had him make us a map. And he was able to actually color in everything because it was just a black and white map, and he turned it all into color, made it look really, really nice. And then we had to figure out how to get it to have like this world turning background, which was even more challenging to get the camera angle right and the timing and everything. And the edge of the map like starts to show at the end, so I had to like edit it and refix it to make that not happen. So this like one little shot at the end here took probably like 10 plus hours to actually pull together. Just this little end here. But I knew it was the intro, and so I knew we'd reuse it a ton, so I knew it'd be worth the amount of effort. But yeah, probably not the best use of my time here. The voiceover for this series is done by Braxwolf. We did voiceover tryouts for a long time. I tried doing it myself. It's when I was a lot less confident reading 5 years ago, so it was a lot tougher, and I was like falling into characters instead of doing like a more narration style. And so we ended up with Braxwolf. Carvette and some others tried too, but a lot of them sounded like they were reading like a dad to his kid instead of like the narrator, which is what we were looking for. I think Braxwolf did an amazing job. I'm sure the others could do it as well, it just wasn't what we were looking for. Love that shot. Such a beautiful,
as with many of the great stories of the Third Age, ours begins in the Shire. While it is generally thought of as a peaceful paradise, away from the troubles of the wider world, the Shire has not always been such a haven.
Our goal was to make every shot here stand out.
Originally, the lands that became the Shire
and I think we did a pretty good job of that.
King of Arnor. Arnor was an ancient kingdom of men, founded at the end of the Second Age.
For every shot you see here, we had like,
grow crops to feed the kingdom.
I don't know, probably 10 times the amount of footage.
His 3 sons divided their father's lands into the kingdoms of...
This shot was stupid hard to do. Because not only... so, we got the map, so good. We got the map, everything's good. We then had to trace out the landscapes of the 3 kingdoms of Arnor to be border accurate, which we couldn't even find maps that like had official borders. They were all like they all disagreed, and so we had to figure out. We decided to just settle on like rivers and roads would be the borders, and, you know, mountains as well. And just go from there. But this shot was stupid hard to do, and it's so fast. And we had to have it change color. This was insane. This took, like, the previous shot that I was talking about earlier took like 10 hours. This probably took 20 hours to get right because we had to trace like everything. It was insane. It was insane. We also had to make sure that here in the middle where all three meet was Weathertop, and getting them all to line up, and like, oh, it was a nightmare. It was an absolute nightmare to line all this stuff up because I wasn't that good at like this type of thing in video editors, and figuring out how to line everything up. I was trying to like drag it instead of like move it actually, and oh, it was a mess. It was a mess. Thankfully with newer video editors you can now just like move things where you need to, but I was not using a great tool at this time, so it was really hard to do. Anyway,
while Arthedain included the hunting grounds, the strife that arose from the fall of Arnor caused the lands of the Shire to be deserted. So where were the hobbits?
Yeah, even the old maps disagree, right?
The earliest
Exactly,
tales
yeah.
of the hobbits seem to suggest that they once dwelt in the upper vales of the Anduin.
So we had to use every part of Middle-earth that we could find.
Precisely why they left their homeland is unknown, but their own accounts speak.
And we also had actors to come in and do stuff as well.
So that it became darkened, and the forest knew
so we had a whole team of like in-game characters to do things.
The mountains, the hobbits had already become divided into three somewhat different breeds: Harfoots, Stoors, and Fallowhides.
And we had, you know, there's the awesome way meet where they have the traveling like wagons, and so, you know, it looks like they're like actually traveling across Middle-earth. Thank goodness. Like, I'm not normally thankful for the Hobbit trailer trash, but this, the need for story made me so thankful that Hobbit trailer trash exists in LOTRO.
Somewhat different breeds: Harfoots, Stoors, and Fallowhides. The Harfoots were the most numerous variety of hobbits.
And so these are all actors. They did a great job of all trying to use as many hobbity emotes as possible.
And roamed over Eriador as far as Weathertop, while the other hobbits were still in the Wilderland. The Stoors were the next group of hobbits to move west. They followed the course of the Loudwater southwards.
So one thing we tried to do, at least I tried to do with the video editing, because I guess I was the only one actually editing it. One thing I tried to do is have crossfades that meant something. So like all our transitions, not all of them, but I tried to have like significant moments where transitions would actually like tell a story.
Next group of hobbits.
And so like I imagined that this smoking, you know, dragon kind of flies into this shot. And I think it looks kind of cool because it's like traveling. Anyway.
Before moving north again. The least numerous.
Yeah, these are the old Hobbit models. Yes,
they had more
that's
skill
true.
in language and song than in farming.
This is 2015, Mr. Beaver.
While they crossed the mountains last, they soon mingled with the others of their kindred who had preceded them into.
Wonderful shot of the party tree. They just started the anniversary festival, and you know, redecorated the party tree just in time for this.
They were often found as leaders and chieftains among clans of the other.
We actually had a different shot, I think. And then we refilmed it, because we filmed this like months in advance, because we had already done like episode 2 and 3 by the time we released this. And so very, very fortunate of that. Also very fortunate of a Numenos existing.
King Argoleb II, King of Arthedain.
And you can actually go in here and film in here.
3 conditions. 1, the hobbits should acknowledge his lordship. 2, they should maintain the roads within the Shire. And 3, they should aid the king's messengers when they come. The hobbits considered themselves as subjects to the king and showed this several times by sending archers to fight for the king.
So here's our first not LOTRO shot that's not a map shot. This is from Third Age Total War, a mod for Medieval 2. Probably way more way more troops of hobbits than there actually were historically. But still, we used it. But yeah, probably way more hobbits than were actually involved in war.
This continued until the last king, Arvedui,
Epic Ogre, what is up?
The North Kingdom was no more.
Great shot of the North Kingdom being
destroyed.
destroyed.
Arvedui, the hobbits appointed a Thane to rule over them. The Thaneship held the king's authority over the Shire.
Did you guys know that there is actually a Thane in LOTRO in the Shire, and that is them?
down along
Well,
family
one of them.
lines.
I don't remember which
In
one.
practice, the Thane's duties were limited, mostly related to defense of the Shire, and so after many years without a threat, the Thaneship became nothing more than a token office.
Maybe it's that one. It's one of them. One of them's the
only
Thane.
other Shire-wide official was the mayor.
And I'm sure most of you know that the
Chief
mayor
duties included
exists.
serving as postmaster of the Shire's messenger service.
TD Growl, yes, there is a giveaway! Exclamation bear in chat to get entered into a $50 Steam card giveaway. Pontin, what is up? Nice to see you here as well.
The mayor was elected every 7 years at a free fair held
Not
in
much
West
use, but he's
Scotland.
there.
He was also
Exactly.
known as first sheriff of the Shire and was responsible for charging the Watch. The Watch was a group of both border guards of the Shire, known as...
Speaking of things they just added to the game, this was also part of like one of the festivals or whatever. And they had all of these, like this is when they just redid this area. Like literally we went back in and refilmed this because they added it in. And thank goodness they did, because it allowed us to actually get a decent shot. Before this, there weren't very many sheriffs in the Shire.
Bounders, and the internal law enforcement called sheriffs. Since Shire law was based solely on common sense and ancient tradition, it was not broken. It was the sheriff's job to protect the Shire.
That's actual lore, by the way. Straight up, nobody ever broke a law in the Shire. Until the Nazgul came along, but nobody broke any laws. Like, what the actual heck? Supposedly, like, it's one of those, like, rumors that nobody does it, but maybe it's just, like, nobody ever heard of it, but, like, yeah. I know, guys. It's insane. It's insane. That's one of the things I learned from doing this series.
Shire from trespassers. There were only 12 sheriffs in the Shire.
Well, I think technically, like, Gollum was a bad hobbit, but he wasn't in the Shire, if you remember. He was off elsewhere. So, you know. There were hobbits that broke laws outside of... Because I'm pretty sure Smeagol wasn't in the actual Shire. I'm pretty sure Smeagol was before they actually... Yes, he did, but that was before they actually migrated over into the Shire, if I remember right. Either that or he straight up didn't get caught. One of the two. But supposedly that's the truth.
And they were distinguished from other hobbits by a feather worn in their caps. The Shire was...
Yes, Saruman comes later, and yes, Saruman did indeed break hobbit laws. Yes, thank you, Mistweaver. Yes. This part of the story is being told pre-Saruman. We'll get to Saruman in a moment. Stealing mushrooms from Farmer Maggot is as bad as it got, pretty much.
Generally free from harm for more than 1,000 years after its founding, due in great part to the efforts of the Rangers of the North. Over time, the hobbits begin to enjoy the finer things in life, including food, pipeweed, and good cheer. However, the peace soon ended when a single band of goblins from the Misty Mountains, led by King Gulfin.
Thank you, Pontin. Yeah, Smeagol was the part of the river folk. He never went or was even part of the Shire. Thank you, Pontin. That is true. Here's some more Total War with goblins coming out of the actual mountains, at least in that mod.
Slipped past the Rangers and into the North Farthing. A hobbit by the name of Banderbus Took knew that if the Shire was to remain safe, the goblin threat had to be dealt with. He took the threat head on by leading a group of hobbits against the...
Probably not exactly how it happened, but you know...
During the battle,
it's a shot.
Fought through the ranks of goblins and cut their king's head clean off. It is said among hobbits that King Gulfimble's severed head traveled 100 yards through the air, landing in a rabbit hole. With a single stroke, Banderbus had defended his homeland and invented the game of golf at the same time. Just 11 years after the Battle of the Green...
The hobbits actually lost the battle? I don't remember, Mistweaver. I don't remember.
That year, the winter was colder than usual and lasted well into the spring months.
Here's some more Total War.
As it came to be known, was particularly brutal for the farming
Driftbit, what's
society
up?
of the Shire. It led to a famine that lasted throughout the next year, and thousands of hobbits died.
Now, the famine probably didn't look like this. Now, maybe there were a bunch of hobbits that had barrel brie all at the same time, or maybe they were huddling for warmth. But to be fair, it probably didn't look like this. They were spread out. But this is a good visual representation of how many hobbits died. So that's what we did.
Due to hunger or cold.
So that's what we
Hearing of
did.
the hobbit's situation, a wizard by the name of Gandalf came to aid the Shire. It was during this time that he developed a
It took us forever to figure out where the heck we could get a cold picture of Gandalf, and so we had to go back into like the intro, and so we had to create like a whole new character and do all that. It was a lot. Okay? There was a lot of work behind every shot here.
fondness for hobbits, admiring their tough, uncomplaining courage and compassion for one another during hard times. Nearly 2 centuries later,
This is maybe my favorite shot of the whole thing. I just really like this Hobbit door. It's so iconic.
Gandalf returned to the Shire and knocked on the door of a very unadventurous hobbit, Bilbo Baggins. Mr. Baggins was not very brave, despite being related to Banderbus Took himself. Over time, Gandalf and his dwarven companions woke the slumbering spirit of Bilbo and started him on an adventure to the Lonely Mountain. The journey would end in the death of Smaug, the last of the great dragons. Along the way, Bilbo discovered a ring and encountered the creature Gollum. Bilbo, finding himself face to face with Gollum, was forced into a game of riddles. Bilbo only agreed to the game so he could avoid being eaten. Even though the creature tried to cheat, Gollum lost.
That's one of my favorite lines. Bilbo only agreed to the game so that he could not be eaten. Like, let's be clear. There was no other... Bilbo would not do a riddle game with a creepy creature in an underground cave unless he was going to be eaten.
Lost the game, and Bilbo escaped with the ring he had found. Bilbo's adventures began a new age of recognition for hobbits and their participation in great deeds of the wider world.
There's old
Hobbits
Bilbo.
were found to be resilient and unusually lucky. Even the wisest among the people of Middle-earth began to see their value.
Elrond always in his
Years after
library.
Bilbo's return to the Shire, Gandalf became interested in the ring Bilbo had found in the Goblin tunnels.
Now,
This ring
here's where we really started to
symbolized
use
the
crossfades.
Forged in the fires of
I
the
love that
the
shot
Dark
because it
Lord's
looks like the goblins are actually like walking on that
While
path.
Gandalf was searching for Gollum, the creature had already been captured by the Dark Lord. Gollum was tortured.
And this is inside one of the instances, I believe in Isengard, but it does a great job of looking like Mount Doom. This was way before Mordor was introduced. Keep in mind, this was 2015. Way before 2016 or 17. I guess it was 2017 when the Mordor expansion came out. Back in the day, our kinship would go to Gollum's Island and take our clothes off. It was a different time. I think so. I think it was a different time.
by the Dark Lord Sauron. While Gandalf was searching for Gollum, the creature had already been captured by the Dark Lord.
Now, most people did not realize that these creepy, like, torture devices exist in the intro in Archit. Like, I know Brigands and Archit are bad and all, but what the actual heck? They have barrels of, like, intestines. It is disgusting, guys. Like, this, like, I don't know what is going on in, like, Archit / Breland, but, like, seriously, like, some of the most heinous crimes in all of Middle-earth, apparently. Like, Sauron's got nothing on, like, the Brigands of Archit, dude.
Gollum was tortured for knowledge of the ring, and soon the name of the Shire was heard in Mordor.
That's what happens when you join up with Angmar.
To find the Shire. And
Another shot that was added just in time, but was so glad that it did. This is from the PvMP map that just got added at the time. And all the Nazgul are in a nice little circle for you.
many years later, Gandalf asked Frodo Baggins, Bilbo's nephew and heir to the House of Bag End, to take the ring out of the Shire.
So we're starting to get like more active shots because the story's starting to get a little bit more active with Frodo and Bilbo's journey. We have a horizontal movement shot to show that like this whole house is being passed, because that's what the dialogue's about, is the house being passed on to from Bilbo to Frodo. And then it also gets passed on again when it does the next crossfade, which we're about to see.
Frodo sold Baggins to his cousin Lobelia and her son Lotho.
So it's sold away, so it fades away. I really like that crossfade. Lots of story being told by the editing.
Causing a shortage of food in parts of the Shire. As Lotho grew in power, he also looked for support from outside the Shire.
And again, like the traveling of the fields is flowing towards the characters we just saw. So it's showing that, you know, the food was being brought to them. And then it's showing that the Brigands really got... Anyway, lots of crossfading.
Unaware of what was happening back home, Frodo made his way to Rivendell, accompanied by 3 other hobbits, Frodo's servant Sam, and 2 of Frodo's cousins, Merry and Pippin. The hobbits and 5 other companions ultimately set out to destroy the ring.
It took forever to figure out this shot and like get everything to like a point where we could actually get a usable shot that did not have floating name or floating text dialogue. You guys don't understand how short of an amount of time in this instance there is to film without floating quest dialogue. And what did we forget to do? What? In this quest, you can talk to Aragorn with a quest ring. And look, Aragorn's just straight up just staring at us. I forgot to move Aragorn. It looks really awkward. But thankfully, I don't think most people noticed. At least the people didn't comment about it.
They were unknowingly followed.
Gussie coming in with a Gussie raid. Welcome, welcome, 21 of you. Get those E-keys ready. Let's get Gussie out of that helicopter. Let's go. Welcome, everybody. Today we're doing a director's commentary for our Middle-earth lore series that we did back in 2015 and 2016. Welcome, welcome, everybody. Nice to have all of you here. This is literally hundreds and hundreds of hours, over 25 people's work, all involved to make this happen.
Who would prove invaluable to their quest.
Gussie's a mod?
Eventually,
when did that happen?
Separated from the rest of their party, Frodo and Sam were forced to trust Gollum as their only guide and hope to destroy the ring.
He's looking at Arwen.
Gollum attempted to betray the hobbits, attacking Frodo at the cracks of doom. With Sam's help, Frodo was able to break free from Gollum and the ring, leaving Gollum to fall over the edge and into the fires below, finally reunited with his presence.
That shot was a huge hit at the time. A lot of people talked about it. Keep in mind, this was before Mordor was in the game in 2015.
To betray the hobbits, attacking Frodo.
And people are like, you actually killed yourself for this for this series. Oh my god. But this is in Moria, in like the pits, flaming pits down there. But I think it does a good job of replacing Mount Doom,
causing the threat of Sauron to come to a swift end.
Griffin-Storm, what's up?
Online
oh,
is a sandbox
ad time. Time for an ad break.
In which you write your own story instead of following a laid-out path. Explore a vast...
So, serious question. Is Albion Online good? Has anybody played it?
Has an impact on Albion's...
I've seen the ads. The ads look good.
Every piece of equipment is crafted by...
But is Albion Online, like, actually a good game?
The equipment you wear...
Like, it looks cool.
Switching from knight to magician is as easy...
But I don't know if it's actually good.
...and weapon, or be a combination of the two. Venture deep inside dungeons and discover wealth and danger in equal measure. Relax.
I don't know if it's good or not.
Returning to the Shire, the hobbits of the Fellowship were stopped by a gatekeeper.
Here's like the big, this is where the big acting moments start. You know, we had a team of Hobbit actors and others. They all had to level up their characters so that they could actually reach the areas we needed them to without being us having to worry about them being killed off. And so they had like a whole leveling group. They had leveling knights. Like there was a ton of time behind the scenes in just making these characters be in these shots. It's insane. This is also an actor playing the role of the Brigands here.
Who said they were not allowed to pass into the Shire at night. After intimidating the gatekeeper,
and yes, we know it's not at night. We tried filming it at night first, and let's just say that there were not usable shots, and so we refilmed it and kind of messed up. Positively Evil, it's been a while. Welcome, welcome. Nice to see you. I don't know if you're out of your truck or not, I guess, but I'm assuming that you're out of your truck at a truck stop somewhere, enjoying this lovely chat today. For those that don't know, Positively Evil plays a lot of Euro Truck Simulator. Why not just get someone who already had a Hobbit characters? Well, that would probably be good too. And to be fair, some of these people did already have high-level Hobbit characters, but they wanted to make custom characters that actually looked like the, Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin. And so they actually custom-made, the character models to do that. Now, sure, they could have visited a barber and all that stuff, but then they wouldn't have had the funny parody names that they had, which I don't remember, but I'm sure that they were hilarious.
Hobbits discovered that he was under orders from a chief at Bag End. Frodo immediately thought his greedy cousin Lotho was behind the orders. The four hobbits continued on into the Shire, stunned that their peaceful homeland had been transformed into a place of fear and industrialized pollution. On their way to Bag End, they encountered some men who claimed allegiance to someone named Sharky. The men retreated at the sight
I
of
forgot
Hobbit
that they go
swords,
nanny nanny boo
and
boo.
the hobbits separated to rally the Shire.
That's actually true. The hobbits yelled at them, and the brigands fled. That's in the books. Look it up. It's ridiculous.
Many hobbits answered the call. Some had already sided with Sharky. Later that day, some of Sharky's forces...
To be fair, they were wearing like Rohirric and Gondorian armor. To be fair, and also like former ring bearer, so who knows what power he had there. But like residual ring power maybe. I know it was destroyed, so probably not, but you never know. He still had like the scars that he had to deal with the whole time, so who knows? Who knows? Anyway, here's some more Total War.
Forces from Hobbiton marched toward Bywater, where the rallied hobbits had gathered. The approaching men and hobbits were surprised to find themselves heavily outnumbered. Their leader tried...
As far as we know, this is the first like actual in-depth depiction of the Scouring of the Shire ever done in any entertainment medium.
To strike at Merry, but was shot down by arrows before he could land a blow. Once the leader was dead, the rest of Sharky's forces quickly surrendered.
And a little bit overdramatic with like everybody turning around instantly when that happens, but hey, it's Total War. You can only do so much.
Throughout the evening, the hobbits worked to strengthen their position while reinforcements continued to arrive.
Also, again, probably way more hobbits than actually existed at
Another group of
the
Sharky's
Scouring of the
forces
Shire.
assailed the hobbits. What unfolded was the Battle of Bywater, a victory both sides would never forget. Sharky's host lay slain, and never again would brigands attack the Shire.
Love that shot too. One of my favorites.
After the battle, the four hobbits led the way to Bag End to deal with the new chief. To their surprise, the hobbits found the wizard Saruman standing...
This shot right here took more time than you can possibly imagine because of a thing called lag. There were so many people like lagging out and like it. Oh my goodness, this was the hardest shot to get. This whole thing. This is the hardest one right here. We did, I don't even know how many takes, and thank goodness the players were good sports and kept doing it.
Led the way to Bag End to deal with the new chief. To their surprise,
but we finally got one with like minimal lag and everyone like actually hitting their mark of where they needed to be in like a cool formation. Cause like we had people like run too far because they lagged out and they kept running. It was a nightmare, guys, to figure this out. But we finally got a usable shot. Oh my goodness. The memories of this just are haunting to me. Like this was seriously like over 2 hours of filming just to get this tiny little shot.
They discovered that Saruman was the mysterious Sharky. Frodo would not allow the hobbits to kill the wizard, but Saruman refused to leave in peace. He attempted to kill Frodo, but was unsuccessful.
I mean, you need a weapon,
Frodo again demanded that his companions show mercy on the old wizard. This clemency, however, enraged Saruman.
So, this was pretty corny, but our justification for why this was such a corny depiction was that our whole goal with this series was to portray it as if the hobbits were telling it. And so a little bit of like a corny depiction makes sense if this is a story of the Shire being told by the people of the Shire. So it all works out when you think of it that way. See? It's all good.
Saruman, and he kicked Wormtongue, his formerly loyal servant. Wormtongue cried out in a rage and cut the old wizard's throat before turning to flee.
Can't wait till that's in the game.
Wormtongue could not outrun the 3 hobbit arrows that ended his life.
The one thing I regret, well, one of the few things I regret from this is not having like a shot of like, hobbits actually firing at him. But anyway.
However, Wormtongue could not outrun the 3 hobbit arrows that ended his life. the hobbits were the only beings in Middle-earth to see the once mighty wizard.
And this was our controversial visual effects shot. Where people are like, did Saruman have gas? Like, what? There were so many comments about gassy Saruman after this. Anyway. We tried to make it, you know, not come from any orifice. So that it didn't look like that, but people still thought it did. Anyway.
After the battle, the hobbits found the Shire desolate and barren due to the industrialized nature of Saruman's take.
So this shot is from the end of the skirmish at the Trouble in Tuckborough. And, well, not the end, but like the penultimate part where you're like just outside of the place where you do the boss fight. And I love it because, you know, the time of day changes. This is one of the best looking shots of the Shire, in my opinion. Plus, it also has like all the stuff that the Brigands left behind.
Takeover. Sam used soil from Lothlorien to help restore the Shire, and grew a beautiful mallarn tree from the precious seed given to him by Galadriel. His work created an echo of the beautiful elven lands throughout the Shire.
Helms Deep was the expansion that destroyed the game's performance. Remember huge issues? Yeah, Helms Deep was a nightmare for game performance because of mounted combat. Well, Riders of Rohan started it because of mounted combat, but then Epic Battles just broke it.
Soon after the death of Saruman, the Shire once again became a protected land in the reunited kingdom.
And keep in mind, this was before Minas Tirith even existed, so we had to use this shot. We couldn't go to Gondor and get that stuff.
The new king decreed that no man was to enter the Shire.
But this emote, again, we got blessed by so many things just getting released into the game. This is another one of those where it was the standard of Gondor emote. So glad that they added that in. Hallwine, what is up?
A decree that he himself obeyed. Under renewed protection, hobbits developed an interest in their own history and the greater events in the kingdom at large. Here we leave our hobbits of the Shire to the peace and prosperity that they
There's so many cool areas.
Next, we will look
inside of LOTRO. It's insane. You just got to find them and spend the time to actually look for it. Again, things that took a long time were... This was back when, you know, annotations were a thing on YouTube. And so I made, like, custom drawings for all this stuff. Like, this was ridiculous. Ridiculous. So we got, like, custom sketches. Oh, my gosh. This brings back tons of memories about how long it took. Insane. Insane. But anyway, here's all the credits of all the people. There were so many people involved in this. It's ridiculous. And yes, we had actual location scouts. And like scene directors. It was insane. There was so much work that went into this project, guys. It's ridiculous. We also had like Lonely Mountain Band doing music editing. So much work. Well, drew or like used Photoshop to make it look like you drew, you know. You know, but like I did have to edit them a little bit, but no, I didn't actually draw those guys. I didn't actually draw those. So anyway, we also had, I couldn't find another document, but we had a document of just like lore facts that would be like a rough outline. So we'd like have somebody that just, their sole job was just to make outlines for this series. We then had a team of like, it showed how many writers, but we had a bunch of writers that would actually like write it out. And then me and Terry Adwin would be involved in editing. And then we'd have a quality assurance team come back in and edit this and also make sure that it was like lore accurate. And so we had like lore experts like Joseph Bradford actually fact check us on all the different lore, and Trish Lambert from the Tolkien Professor podcast actually fact check us on stuff. Way involved. Also we had pronunciation guides like Arthedain and Rhudaur. But yeah, it was insane. But yeah, this is how long that script of that video was that we just read. 6 pages. Really 5, but still pretty long. Like I said, we also had location scouts that would go through and not only find a location, but then they'd have to also take a screenshot of said location at the angle in which they want it shot. And they'd also give us the coordinates in-game of where to find said shot so that we could instantly go there and get the same thing. Because I didn't have time to scour the entire Shire for stuff and film it and edit the script and do everything else we were doing. So, yeah, we had location scouts. We had a team of 7 location scouts whose sole job was to, look through Middle-earth and find stuff. Now, a lot of these shots were used, but it's hard to tell because this is nighttime. I didn't really care too much about time of day. I just wanted locations that would look good, and then we'd worry about time of day and stuff like that later. But, yeah, it had a lot of the same shots. Like, that was definitely in it. This shot was definitely in it, but from a different angle. That was in it. Lots of stuff. We even had what they call the location for moving pictures, where we'd say where we were going to do the acting. This is where we did the acting with all the different in-game hobbits. Also had some really cool shots of Baggins. So there was a ton of work that went into this, guys. Where we actually matched it to the line of dialogue. So 2, they should maintain the roads within the Shire, for example. If I can get back over here. And 3, they should aid the King's men. So see, these are shot for shot exactly what was done. And yeah, it was very, very involved, guys, to get all these shots and storyboards and everything else. It took so much time and effort, literally hundreds of hours into a single episode, which is why we stopped making them. Oh my goodness. Anyway, let's go ahead and go on to episode 2 for Bree.
Grammarly can help you write quickly and confidently, so you never have to slow down at work. Instant corrections make your...
Oh yeah, Griffin, we straight up had to at times we do all the day shots, and we try to get all the day shots done as quickly as possible because we had to rely on the in-game time, and then we'd go to do all the night shots, and we do all the night shots as quickly as possible because the time only changes every so often. And so instead of doing the most related locations, we instead did based on time of day all the different locations. It was insane.
Mistake-free.
It was insane.
Middle-earth, a land of great beauty and greater conflict. From small folk to ancient kingdoms. Middle-earth.
To my own LOTRO stream / played. Yeah, hundreds of hours on a single video. It's ridiculous. This second episode is about Bree. It took way less time because, Bree's not an entire zone. It's just a tiny city. So it went a lot faster.
The breeding ground for fantastical adventures and larger-than-life characters. This is the story of Middle-earth. 40 miles east of the Shire, the town of Bree was a bustling center of commerce. It was home to hobbits and men, as well as a welcome stop for dwarves traveling to and from the Blue Mountains. The town was built into the side of a hill, protected by a hedge with 2 gates. Unknown to the Bree folk, the remnants of the Dunedain, whom they called rangers, also protected the village from the evils that lurked in the uninhabited lands around Bree. Until a certain night in the Third Age, this protection was enough to keep the people safe. Bree was thriving when the Numenoreans returned out of the west at the beginning of the Third Age.
Till a certain night, and then there were freaking Nazgul!
Although it became part of the northern kingdom of Arnor, and then Arthedain when the kingdom was split, Bree retained its independence and outlasted the fall of the northern kingdom.
I love that shot where the guard walks past
Bree's
the camera.
survival was likely due to its location at one of the most important crossroads in Eriador. It was the meeting place of the Great Road coming out of the east and the Greenway, which ran from...
So one thing we tried to avoid was static shots like this where there's not a lot moving, because then it almost starts to look like a screenshot, which is really not what we wanted. So this is one of the shots where I wish there was like a light here so that there'd be like flies buzzing around or something. But anyway.
Great road coming out of the east, and the Greenway, which ran from...
We should have waited for a gust of wind or something.
In the south. The town became a place of great commercial trade and shelter for many travelers. It was the westernmost settlement of men in Eriador. The folk of Bree claimed to have invented the art of smoking pipeweed, and from there it passed to the Shire, where the hobbits took up the art with enthusiasm.
I forgot.
Dwarves,
with
enthusiasm. And the occasional wizard also learned the art in Bree.
Oh, and I forgot we got the action shot of like pro-tobacco Middle-earth here. I forgot we had that shot.
The most common meeting place in Bree for both travelers and villagers was the Prancing Pony. The inn's precise age was unknown even by the Butterbur family, who had kept the inn for countless generations. The pony was built into the side of Bree Hill and was a 3-story structure with wings stretching to the north and south. There was also a courtyard in which horses and ponies were stabled.
See, this feels like almost like the Travel Channel or something like that, where they do like an in-depth dive into like a location. I really like our job on that part, and the music fits it pretty well too, where it's like that country Travel Channel segment.
In addition to regular rooms for men and dwarves, there were special ground floor rooms suitable for hobbits. All 3 races were often found mingling in the common room, sharing news and gossip, as well as indulging in pipeweed and the excellent beer of the house. The peace of Bree was shattered by the arrival of the Nazgul.
Transition.
The locals called Black Riders. Deathless and incredibly ancient, each rider was clothed in black robes and mounted on black steeds. Unknown to the Bree folk, the 9 riders were former...
So, LOTRO kind of goes for the blue robes. I don't know why LOTRO picked blue robes. Maybe so that the, like, no face stands out more. But LOTRO did go for more the blue robe
kings
look.
Of men whom Sauron had gifted rings of power, slowly bending them to his will. Their single mission in their arrival at Bree was to find the One Ring. In the course of their search, 2 of the Black Riders came up the Greenway into Bree,
Rick Steve-esque.
asking for news of a hobbit called Baggins. Barlaam Butterbur closed his door on them, but they had more success with Harry the Gatekeeper, who agreed to
Dang
provide
it, Harry.
information.
You had one job!
When Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin arrived in Bree, they hoped to meet with Gandalf, and so went to the Prancing Pony. The innkeeper made them feel safe, and they decided to stay even though the wizard was not there. Later that evening, Merry went out for a walk, while the other hobbits went to the common room for food and drinks. Pippin began to tell stories of Bilbo, causing Frodo to leap onto a table to sing a song in an effort to distract the other guests from Pippin's tales. An accidental fall
that's what you want, is your hairy hobbit feet and your food, man.
caused the ring to slip onto his finger, making the hobbit disappear.
That's what you're looking for.
The incredible occurrence was the talk...
So the way we did this shot is we had them dance and then log out. This is not an edit trick. This is not like a jump cut.
Onto a table.
This is a character logout.
The other guests from Pippin's tales. An
And
accident
it works really well.
the ring to slip onto his finger, making the hobbit disappear. The incredible occurrence was the talk of the town for many months. A hooded ranger sitting in the corner noticed the vanishing hobbit and quickly escorted them out of the common room. A letter from Gandalf, delivered belatedly by the forgetful Butterbur, convinced Frodo to let the ranger Strider guide them to Rivendell. Meanwhile, Merry had encountered a Black Rider while on his walk, and fell into a faint. He was roused by a hobbit servant.
I love this crossfade here.
Rider while on his walk.
So we were like, how the heck do we get a Nazgul in Bree? It's gonna look stupid when you see an actual, we saw an actual Nazgul previously. We tried doing like a character mock-up come in here. We eventually realized all we have to do is do a crossfade and leave it sitting around for a while, and it'll look like the Nazgul's like actually
Merry
there.
Had encountered a Black Rider while on his walk, and fell into a faint.
And gets the job done.
He was roused by a hobbit servant employed by Butterbur, and ran back to the inn to warn the others. Later that night, the inn was attacked by servants of the Black Riders, scaring many horses and ponies out of the town. In order to secure a pony for their trip to Rivendell, the hobbits were forced to do business with an unsavory man named Bill Ferny.
Dang it, Bill Ferny.
Ferny sold the only pony in town for an outrageous sum, and the fortunate animal passed into more caring and humane hands.
You go, Sam.
Named the pony Bill, and the two formed a special bond. The villagers may have thought their troubles were over after the hobbits and riders left Bree, but that was not the case. Once the Rangers left to fight in the War of the Ring, all sorts of ruffians, highwaymen, and wolves encroached on the land. The Breelanders survived by building hasty defenses and posting watchmen.
One of the things I did was, you have this wolf here, and I lined it up with the shield.
Of the ring,
I edited this next shot to line up with the shield, so it looked like he was actually defending against him.
The Breelanders survived by building hasty
little
defenses
details like
and
that.
posting watchmen. Despite these defenses, the ruffians raided the town, killing 3 men and 2
This is from the
hobbits.
famous skirmish.
When Frodo and his companions returned to Bree, the worst had passed. Butterbur said the citizens had not realized how much the Rangers had protected them. The hobbits informed Butterbur that his former customer Strider had been crowned king, and assured him that order would soon be restored, this time under royal protection.
I like how it goes from, he's one of them Rangers, to, oh yeah, that guy became king. Yeah. This far off land. Yeah, he became king of like everything, and he's gonna also reunite the kingdom over here, and so pretty soon he'll be your king too, by the way, buddy. So, one of them Rangers, soon to be your king. So get ready for that.
Here we leave the people of Bree to rebuild their town. Next, we look to the west, to the Blue Mountains, an ancient home for dwarves and elves.
But yeah, again, we tried to make it be like as if the people of Bree were telling the story. And so, you know, it's like not even a big deal. It's like, oh yeah, and he became king. Like, it's one of those like stupid facts that like you just say in passing. That's like not a big deal, but it's like Bree's claim to fame, right? That like the future king of Gondor was here. Like they're gonna have like huge traveling signs saying, you know, future king of Gondor stayed here. You mean this dump?
No.
The names of these. Boar Fountain Pipe Club. Special thanks to LOTRO, LOTRO Players, and Mythgard Institute for helping make these possible. Saying Gandalf was here as well, right? Yeah, it turns out a lot of people were there in Bree,
A
man.
land of great beauty and greater conflict. From small folk to ancient kingdoms. Middle-earth is the breeding ground for fantastical adventures and larger-than-life
characters. This is the story of Middle-earth. Braxwolf, in like the test things, kept saying like, this is CNN. Anyway.
This is the story of Middle-earth.
So this is the first episode that I did not edit. I think I did the first few shots, but then it got taken over by, I brought a video editor onto the team, and we'll see their credits at the end here.
When the world was young, before the first sunshine and moonlight, before the war of wrath between powers of terror and might, a mountain range lay between Eriador and Beleriand. These mountains were called Eredluin, Sindarin for Blue Mountains, and they were one of the oldest inhabited regions in Middle-earth.
How'd you do the rotating map in the intro? So that's just an image that you then put a bunch of like video effects on to like have it rotate and also zoom in and out, so it doesn't look like it's actually just an image, and it looks much. And I think we then like took the video and then re-edited it, so like we exported and then re-edited the video so it didn't look like it was all being done at the same time. Yeah, it wasn't easy, but eventually we did get a shot that we were happy with. So yeah, it was not easy.
Earth. Before
But yeah, it is
Beleriand
just an
was
image.
destroyed in the First Age, 7 rivers flowed from its western side through the fair land of Osiriand, where the Green Elves came to abide. In the War of Wrath at the end of the First Age, the
But it's like a really high-res image. I remember on my old computer, it would almost crash every single time I would open up this image. Like, it was something stupid. Like, the image itself was like multiple gigs. It was ridiculous. It was a super high-res image
mountain chain was broken and divided in two by
that
the great
Zinger had
Gulf
made
of
for me.
Luin.
Yeah, Creefast, a lot of work.
Mountains were always best loved by the dwarves. Since the first age of the sun, they built their houses over, upon, and under them, laboring long in making them grand.
And like even the music editing we tried to do like things with, so like, you know, as he said, move down, the music got deeper. I don't know if you noticed that, but we do stupid things like that probably no one will notice that we did, just to have like that extra little detail, man.
This love of stone was a gift given to them by their creator, and the Blue Mountains was one of the first ranges in which they dwelt. The dwarves were not created by Iluvatar, but by one of the Valar. Aule had lordship over all the substances of the world and was a smith as well as a master of all crafts. Aule had a great desire to pass his knowledge on, but he did not know when the firstborn of Iluvatar would appear.
So this shot is insane. This shot right here is insane. I cannot express to you guys enough how insane this shot is. It looks simple. It's just a dwarf fading away. How hard of a shot could it be, Andang? You don't understand. So I didn't do this. This was the video editor's idea. They executed it. I would never ask a video editor to do this. What they had to do was take another part of the rug and line it up exactly perfectly, and then use a macro to tie in the in-game movements and also the video editor movements to be the exact same over the shot, to be perfectly timed,
he did not know
to make this disappearing dwarf exist.
He decided to literally take matters into his own hands, so he created the dwarves. Aule made the dwarves strong, stubborn, and long-lived, but not immortal like the elves. They were to be builders and craftsmen like their creator, whom they called Nahal, which meant the maker in their tongue. Iluvatar sternly rebuked Aule for making beings before the coming of his own children, and Aule was remorseful. He was ready to destroy his creations, but Iluvatar pitied the dwarves, allowing them to live and granting them true life. They could not precede his own firstborn, however, so Iluvatar made the dwarves sleep until after the Eldar awoke.
So it again is a little bit corny, but I still think it's hilarious that Iluvatar's like, no, put your dwarves to sleep. Elves first.
There were 7 created by Aule, and they were laid to sleep in different parts of Middle-earth. Durin slept north of the Misty Mountains. His kin were called the Longbeards. 2 others slept in the Blue Mountains, and their clans were the Firebeards and the Broadbeams. The progenitors of the Iron Fists, Stiffbeards, Blacklocks, and Stonefoots slept in the mountains to the east. The dwarves had many beliefs strange to the other folk of Middle-earth. They believed that the 7 fathers could be reborn amongst their kin and bear their ancient names.
Yeah, by the way, at some point, Durin, he might come back. Be on the lookout for that.
Dwarves also kept their own language a secret.
LOTRO's kind of exploring that thought.
The battle cry of the dwarves, Baruk Kazad, Kazad I Menu, has been heard upon many a battlefield throughout the long years of conflict.
And yes, again, we had a, so this time we did a call to the community because we needed a lot of dwarves. We wanted to get as many dwarves in game as we possibly could. And so we literally have them all going Baruk Kazad and yelling out. And it was hilarious. I wish I still had the like actual footage of this, but it was hilarious because it's literally just like a party of 12 dwarves just all going Baruk Kazad at the same time. And like we were all just cracking up laughing to the point where we couldn't even use the audio of them all doing it because it was so hilarious.
Years of conflict. At some point in the first age of Middle-earth, 2 dwarf fathers opened their eyes, gazing in wonder at the starry skies. But it was in the heart of the mountain that they found their place. The 2 westernmost houses of the dwarves, the Firebeards and Broadbeams, built the great dwarven cities of Nogrod and Belagost, and the mountains rang with the hammer strikes and the songs of dwarven hosts. Centuries later, the wrath of the Valar
Just have to mock them till the cows came home.
Thunder, fire, and flame, and the world was changed. Valerians
again, and this one didn't match up as well, but again, they had to get the exact shot from the intro and the post intro. They had to get the exact same angle and everything.
The sea, and the mountains were broken, and the great dwarven cities were destroyed. With their cities in ruins, the dwarves fled. Homeless and helpless, the children of Aule migrated east to Moria, which they called Khazad-dûm, where the dwarves of Durin threw a mighty feast. Over the following centuries, they shared their knowledge of the world of old, carving and molding gems of ruby and gold, and the works of the dwarves was wondrous.
So you notice there's a lot of rhymes here. I'm so glad that Estelle Ali used to write poetry for LOTRO players, and we brought them on, and I think the dwarves were the perfect ones to have rhymes start coming into our series. And I think it's a good job because, you know, the dwarves rhymed a lot, did a lot of songs and stuff. And I think it's cool that our series of the dwarves, you know, the Blue Mountains by the dwarves, like as if the story's being told by the dwarves, has a lot of rhyming and stuff too. I think it added a little bit extra flair to it.
But in their quest for more ore and gems, they dug too deep, and unknowingly woke a demon of shadow and flame which threatened to destroy them. They fled from Moria in terror, and homeless once more, some dwarves turned toward the Blue Mountains, their home of old, while those of Durin's folk went east and settled in Erebor. Many years later, the Erebor dwarves were once again refugees, and they came to settle with their kin in the Blue Mountains.
And again, these walking shots take forever because of lag and getting people to meet their marks.
Their halls had been destroyed by Smaug the Golden. Though they founded a prosperous settlement, the Erebor dwarves eventually returned to their home, leaving their halls to the clans of the Blue Mountains. As the Third Age came to an end and the world was left in the hands of men, the dwarves remained in the Blue Mountains. Eventually they diminished, until the only sign of their achievements lay in the stones of the Blue Mountains, a monument to their craft and grandeur. Here we leave the riches of the Blue Mountains to the dwarves. Next we turn our attention eastward to the beauty and peace of Rivendell.
One of the things we did was match up the skylight with the moon.
Eastward to the beauty and peace of Rivendell.
Like the attention to detail and stuff like that was just insane. I guess I do want to see who edited it, or have all of you see who edited it, I guess. So there we go. Levine edited this whole thing. And they also did some other YouTube videos, which are really good. Levine, it looks like we're surfing. So yeah, they had a lot of cool ones. Let me see. Well, they also did some other Dean Pop videos, but we're not going to focus on that. One of the coolest things they did is they did a shot-for-shot recreation of the Hobbit trailer. This right here is why I brought them onto the team. Here we go. Shot-for-shot recreation of the Hobbit trailer.
My dear Frodo, you asked me once if I had told you everything there was to know about my adventures. Well, I can honestly say I have told you the truth. I may not have told you all of it.
Bilbo Baggins. I'm looking for someone.
They even got the camera angles right, guys. Like, it's insane.
I can't just go running off into the blue. I am a Baggins. Wait! Of Baggend.
Bilbo, allow me to introduce Fili, Kili, Oin, Loin, Darlin, Balin, Biffer, Hofer, Bomber. Nori.
Ski, what is up?
Leader of our company, Thorin Oakenshield.
I love the look back. Like,
Thorin.
I can't imagine how long it took to get that shot.
Oakenshield.
Far over the misty mountains cold.
Like, the attention to detail is insane.
Dungeons deep.
It is straight up shot for shot, camera angle for camera angle, the same.
The pines were roaring on the height. The winds were moaning in the night. The fire was red, it flaming spread. The trees like torches blazed with light.
I cannot guarantee his safety. Understood. Nor will I be responsible for his fate.
That's my favorite part. Look at Gandalf's face.
His fate.
The emotes! The emotes!
You'll have a tale or two to tell when you come back.
Can you promise that I will come back?
No. And if you do, you will not be the same.
My name is Bilbo Baggins.
Yeah, it is insane, guys. This is not easy. And like, there were so many shots here. Like, that shot, not easy at all. You even got Gandalf cutting the thing, like breaking the stone or whatever, which is only in the extended version, I'm pretty sure. You got the shot of all the dwarves falling.
You'll have a tale or two to tell when you come back.
Can you promise that I will come back?
No.
It's so good.
And if you do, you will not be the same.
My name is Bilbo Baggins.
What is Baggins' precious?
So I actually really liked the first Hobbit movie. The second Hobbit movie, when you have Smaug, the Hobbit's like riding on a wheelbarrow on like the molten stuff and like not instantly burning and like that whole scene, that's when I started to like really lose interest. And then by the end I was just like, okay, this is ridiculous. I actually enjoyed the third one more than the second one.
Ensures you can
Middle-earth.
Here we go with Rivendell.
And greater conflict. From small folk to ancient kingdoms. Middle-earth is the breeding ground for fantastical adventures and larger-than-life characters. This is the story of Middle-earth.
See, I get that laws of physics don't apply, but it totally took me out of the movie.
The entire
Totally took me out of it.
The lore of the elves was held and maintained in a hidden stronghold. This was Imladris, known to men and hobbits as Rivendell.
I love that they had an upward shot of Rivendell here. It's a little detail, but like, you don't hardly ever see upward shots of Rivendell, especially in LOTRO, because like nobody goes this direction looking back like this. And so it's something that you hardly ever see in the game, and I think it's really special that we had it here. But anyway.
Home and domain of Elrond Half-Elven. Elrond and his twin brother Elros were born near the end of the First Age at the mouths of Sirion, a refuge of the Edain and Elves during a war-torn era of Middle-earth's history. The lineage of Elrond and Elros...
This took our video editor an unbelievable amount of time to figure out how to visually explain this, and so they eventually decided on a literal like tree to explain this dialogue. Why we didn't just cut this out of this lore series, I don't know, but this was ridiculous to figure out how to portray visually. I remember having a lot of conversations with the video editor about this.
Is unique among the people of Middle-earth. They were descended through their great-grandmother Luthien from Melian, a being from the blessed realm of Valinor, who chose to remain in Middle-earth as a consort of an elf king. Their mother Elwing, granddaughter of Luthien the elf princess, and Beren, a hero among men, married Eärendil, the son of another human hero and a daughter of another king of elves. The Dark Lord of the First Age was Morgoth, a member of the Valar whose lust for power and
dramatic shift again.
thoroughly corrupted him. In the darkest days of that age, Elrond's father and mother sailed over the sea to Valinor to beg the Valar
Love this shot.
Morgoth. The Valar agreed to the request, which led to the War of Wrath and the banishment of Morgoth. However, Elrond's parents had broken the ban against mortals setting foot in the Blessed Realm, a transgression punishable by death, or perhaps something worse. Because of the nature of their mission, however, the Valar did not punish the pair. Instead, they and their two sons were given the choice of kindred, elves or men. Elrond's parents chose the firstborn. When Elrond and his brother were 6 years old, they lost their parents in an assault by another faction of elves. The twins were raised to adulthood under the care of one of the elves who led the attack. When they were older and their time came to choose according to the decision of the Valar, Elrond chose the Elves as his kindred, while Elros chose the kindred of men. In the Second Age, a mysterious being naming himself Anatar, Lord of Gifts, appeared among the Elves of Eregion, befriending them and learning their secrets for forging rings of power. Unknown to the Elves, he created a ring of power to bind all the other rings together. Once he had created the one ring, he was unmasked to the Elves as Sauron, the new Dark Lord, servant of Morgoth.
So wait, is Aragorn technically already related to Elrond without marriage? Related to Elrond before marriage. Yes, he is, because Aragorn is descendant of Elrond's brother Elros. So that's like the most awkward, like, inter-family Arkansas relationship that there ever was. Alright. Anyway. Not only does Aragorn marry a cougar, he also marries, like, his great relative.
During this time, Elrond became a revered master of lore, as well as a great leader in time.
It is a long line of kings, but on the other side, it's like 2 people. Really, just one. One new person. Like, I'm just saying, half of that line is really gross.
Times of war. When Sauron's forces overran Eregion, Elrond led the elves who fled the destruction to a hidden valley in the Misty Mountains, where he established a stronghold. This stronghold became the only stand against Sauron in all of the region until the combined forces of the Elven High King Gil-galad and Númenorian King Tel-Minastir defeated the Dark Lord. Elrond was appointed High Regent of Gil-galad and Eregion, with the stronghold as his base. Elrond joined Gil-galad and Elendil in the war.
Here's more Total War, where we finally got battle shots again. We tried to do as little battle shots as possible because they take way more time to film.
War of the Last Alliance against Sauron at the end of the Second Age, and became the keeper of the Elven Ring Vilya upon Gil-galad's death. He returned to Rivendell and used the ring to create a sanctuary.
Pontin, I understand that it doesn't matter on one side. It doesn't matter from, like, the human perspective, right? But from, like, the elven perspective, it's super close. Like, it's marrying your father's brother's grandkid, right?
Of learning and lore that lasted through the Third Age and beyond. Rivendell was a place of such importance that it was referred to many times by several different names. The elves called this place Imladris, meaning deep valley in the cleft.
Like, if there was even one more relation between father and brother, it would be a little bit more okay.
Literally, a dell riven into the mountains. Sometimes it was simply called the Hidden Valley, and none could find it save by secret paths or by the invitation of Elrond. Even in the latter part of the Third Age, when Eriador had seen many years of relative peace,
I love that
the
shot.
safety of Rivendell and the wisdom of Elrond were sought by the people of Middle-earth. Gilrain, wife of the rightful but exiled king of Arnor and Gondor, came to Rivendell seeking refuge for herself and her young son after the death of her husband. Elrond fostered the boy, Aragorn, whom the elves named Estelle.
Yeah, it's a nice
Sindarin
perch.
word for hope. Elrond taught Estelle about his heritage and birthright, preparing him for his destiny. Many years later, the wizard Gandalf brought a company of 13 dwarves and a hobbit to Rivendell, seeking knowledge that only Elrond possessed, for a quest that proved to be more significant than anyone expected. Bilbo Baggins, the hobbit of Gandalf's company, came to Rivendell to live out his old age and to study the lore that was stored in Elrond's library. It is to Bilbo that we owe what we know of Middle-earth, much of it passed on to him by Elrond and the Elves.
So with Rivendell, we kind of broke things a bit where, the elves in our mind had already left Middle-earth. So we were still trying to tell it from an elven perspective, but we are also making sure to include the fact of how important Bilbo is in the role of this story even being told. Our whole goal was trying to figure out who was telling the story and relating it as much as possible to that goal. And so the idea was that this was an elven scholar or something, giving credit to why we knew what we knew.
Elves of Imladris.
Which Tolkien did too.
In the closing years of the age, ambassadors from all the leaders of Middle-earth converged simultaneously upon Rivendell, seemingly by coincidence, seeking counsel and guidance from Elrond about the fight against Sauron. They were joined by Gandalf the Grey, Aragorn, and 4 hobbits. One of the hobbits was Frodo Baggins, Bilbo's nephew and reluctant bearer of the One Ring. During the Council of Elrond, it was decided that Frodo and 8 companions would take the ring to be destroyed in the fires of Mount Doom. Though it was not known at the time, this was the beginning of the War of the Ring, in which Sauron was finally defeated and Aragorn took his rightful place on the throne of Gondor. After Sauron's defeat, Elrond took his leave of Middle-earth and boarded a ship to Valinor, in the company of Bilbo, Frodo, Gandalf, and Galadriel, the Lady of Lothlorien. Galadriel's husband Celeborn remained behind in Rivendell, conserving its lore and serving as lord of the Eldar who still remained.
I can't wait. I cannot wait for the furniture moving quest. I cannot wait till we get to go in to Rivendell and Elrond's library and just move around all the furniture, because there's a new boss elf in town and he doesn't like where the furniture's at. I cannot wait for that quest. It's going to be amazing. I really hope LOTRO does it, because it would be hilarious.
Then many years later, during the final fading of the elves, he too set sail for the west, and Rivendell was left silent and empty, with its memories locked deeply within its stones.
He did indeed, Fahrenheit. He did indeed.
We must now leave the peaceful sanctuary of Imladris and turn to Angmar, an evil region that battled with the northern kingdoms of men.
And so this was the end of our original run of Middle-earth lore. We went through each of the starter races and the zones that relate to them. We didn't want to do Ered Luin again, so we had to do Rivendell for the elves. No, we're not doing stout axes. No, this series is definitely dead, at least how it was. We might do I'll show you guys what we did to keep the audio alive at least. Anyway, here is the final episode that came out much later. So this was May 13th, 2020. The original, or the last of the originals, came out in September 2016. So literally 4 years.
Middle.
You had to wait 4 years to get this part 5.
Middle-earth, a land of great beauty and greater conflict. From small folk to ancient kingdoms. Middle-earth is the breeding ground for fantastical adventures and larger-than-life characters.
A gaming browser? Why do you need a gaming browser? Maybe someone does.
This is the story of Middle-earth. The Dark Lord Sauron sought power and dominion over Middle-earth. He forged rings of power that were under his control, and 9 of these he gave to leaders of men. The chief among the 9 was the Witch King, who ruled the dread kingdom of Angmar. No one knows who the Witch King was before he became a servant to Sauron. Some say that he was
less
one of
resources from your
3
PC,
black
really?
lords to receive Sauron's rings.
Maybe I need it.
Others say he was a king of the Easterlings. There are also those who believe that he was already a sorcerer and the scourge of the North Kingdom, with armies that rivaled those of the Haradrim. While it was unknown who he was before he obtained his ring, that ring enabled him to gain even more power and wealth. However, his power eventually consumed him until he became the leader of the Nine. As
Throne
the
Room
leader
of Carn-dûm
Sauron's
is
armies in
amazing,
the
man.
north, it was the Witch King who laid siege to Imladris in the Second Age, an assault that was ended by Gil-galad. After Sauron's defeat in the War of the Last Alliance, the Nazgul vanished from Middle-earth. However, in the Third Age, there were rumors of a dark power growing in the north and a mysterious sorcerer who ruled over that land. That land was named Angmar, Iron Home, and it stretched from the northernmost crescent of the Misty Mountains east to Mount Gundel.
By the way, those rumors way before the events of LOTRO. LOTRO did a retcon where they made it like he was coming back again for like a third time.
The Witch King set his throne in the dark citadel of Carn-dûm on the western edge of Angmar, and it became his strongest fortress. The king gathered his armies of orcs, evil men, and other unspeakable creatures bent on one goal, the destruction of Arnor. From there, the Witch King led his attacks on Arnor, which was already divided into 3 separate kingdoms by internal strife. Instead of engaging in open attack, the Witch King used his infiltrators to widen the rifts between the 3 kingdoms of Arnor. Rudar was the first to succumb, for its kingdom was the smallest and their hillmen kings were easily manipulated.
I really hope the new Amazon MMO covers the actual fall of Arnor. That would be insane! Oh, it would be so cool. I really, really hope that there's not floating trees in the new MMO, and also that we get to see the fall of Arnor. That would be so dope.
Once Rudar was completely in Angmar's sway, it was invaded and captured by Angmarim forces. Those still loyal to the House of Elendil were hunted down by sorcerers. Angmar then attacked Cardolan, the Second Kingdom. Resistance forces held the Tower of Amansul, but not for long. The tower fell, and King Arvaleg was slain. The survivors fled with 2 Palantiri to Fornost. The Witch King pursued and drove his forces towards the last kingdom.
No, we do not. We do not want flying monster trees. No, no, Griffin. No flying monster trees.
Arthedain, but he was repelled by their young king Arafor. With the aid of Círdan the Shipwright and the forces of Lindon, Arafor repelled the Angmarim and drove them
welcome,
from
welcome.
Fornost. The Witch King returned to Carn-dûm to brood and rebuild his armies. The Witch King sent his forces to Fornost once again, intent on conquering Arthedain and capturing the Palantiri. King Arvedui sent to Gondor for help, and the Gondorian prince Earnor joined forces with Círdan in an alliance of men, elves, and hobbits in an attempt to save
me too,
Arnor.
Ski.
They came too late. Arnor had fallen. Angmar had captured the capital, and the Witch King had taken the throne in Fornost. King Arvedui fled north, only to perish in the ice bay of Forakel, and the 2 Palantiri were lost with him. Had the Witch King simply ignored the forces of Gondor and Lindon, it would have been the end of Arnor for all time. But in his hubris, the Witch King sent forces to attack Earnor. The great battle of Fornost was waged on the fields of Menuil. Caught between the marching armies and the horsemen of Earnor, the Witch King was beaten back, and he fled to Carn-dûm with Earnor's horsemen hard on his heels. The armies of Gondor and Lindon were joined by those of Rivendell, led by Glorfindel, and together they razed Carn-dûm and annihilated Angmar's armies. The Witch King hid from the battle until the very end, when he finally met his foes. Earnor's horse took fright and bolted, but as the Witch King mocked him, Glorfindel rode up to challenge the evil king. The king was so...
I forgot. So, look very closely.
But as the Witch King mocked him, Glorfindel rode up to challenge
this random disattached hand to make it look like Glorfindel's actually doing something, because we all know Glorfindel doesn't do crap in LOTRO.
the evil king. The king was so afraid of Glorfindel that he vanished into the shadows and escaped to Mordor. Earnor, more bold than wise, wanted to ride in pursuit, but he was stayed by Glorfindel, who said prophetically,
"He will not return to this land. Far off yet is his doom, and not by the hand of men will he fall."
Angmar, the Iron Home, fell. After the orcs and evil men were permanently driven out, the region was settled by the Eotheod.
That's all you gotta
ancestors of
do.
the
He
Rohirrim,
styles.
and the land was cleansed. We now leave the dark lands of Angmar to travel to Amansul in the Weather Hills, a strategic site in the history of Middle-earth.
And you can see different generation here of Video Ender. Annotations are gone. It's a sad time. Anyway.
If you like Zaxby's, you're gonna love the Zaxby's app. Use it to order ahead to fast track your order. Plus, member-only rewards and surprises.
Oh man, member-only rewards.
It's convenient. It's the Zaxby's app. Download
Gotta
it today.
download it today.
Middle-earth, a land of great beauty
So
and greater
here
conflict.
is where the quality
From small folk
started to go
ancient
away.
Kingdoms. Middle-earth is the breeding ground.
Now, you'll notice that this was 2019. That's because we actually re-released Angmar stuff, so I guess technically it was only 2 years instead, or like 3 years instead of 4 years. But anyway, this is what the Angmar video used to look like,
fantastical
but it's a little bit better.
and larger-than-life characters. This is the
So you guys can watch this on your own time. But basically,
strategic sites
I just
stand
got
at the heart of
pictures from the
realize
internet
that.
and put them together because it was way less work.
Laith, the eldest, won Weathertop for Arthedain.
By the way, this is actual concept art for LOTRO. I don't know if you guys knew that, but there's like all sorts of concept art for LOTRO. This is some of the beautiful stuff that LOTRO made. Imagine if LOTRO looked like this.
Played a fateful role in Middle-earth history. Echoing men of centuries long past, Gandalf came to Weathertop to view the road and lands in search of Frodo the Ringbearer and his companions, who were in...
Do you know the #1 female turn-on of all time?
No.
No, it's not confidence.
No, I don't.
It's not charm.
How about we don't watch that?
Middle-earth, a land of great beauty and greater conflict.
I don't know, Mistweaver.
From small folk to ancient kingdoms. Middle-earth is the breeding ground for fantastic...
And then we also did our final episode on
Traveler from the south could
Fornost.
pass a few days north of Bree, only to find that the road ended suddenly at a ruined wall. Great must have been the gates that once hung here, but he would find them desolate and in disarray. In the Third Age, this was a place of ill omen and local legend. Breelanders would not go near for fear of ghosts that lurked among the stones. Dead Man's Dyke, they called it. Only a few rangers would dare enter the site of the once proud city that stood empty and full of echoes of the past. At the beginning of the Second Age, there was no city here. A highway that ran through the heart of Eriador.
There's some pretty cool
Center of power
shots that
for
you
the
can
smaller
get
nation of
from the
Arthur.
internet.
However, over the years, Arthur, led by evil hillmen, that
This is
served the dark
Angmar
forces
from concept art of Angmar from the War in the North game.
in secret. In the north, the fell kingdom of Angmar
Singer.
was on the rise, led by a powerful sorcerer bent on the fortification of Amansul. Elves of Lindon
He's
and
also fighting and
Lothlorien,
stuff.
under the command of Círdan and Elrond, came to the aid of their allies. Together, they repelled the Dark Wraith and the throne and its gates cast down. All those living there either fled west.
If trolls
or
looked like
perished
that
by
in
sword
LOTRO, I'd
and
be
sorcery.
so terrified.
And Weathertop with him, where he was able to reach open
And we
water,
got
and
shipwrecked.
his boat was dashed upon the rocks. The last king of the north, Per,
shipwrecked
fled
guy.
northeast, seeking refuge in Angmar from where he had come. But his realm had suffered a fatal loss, and the Dark Realm would never again regain strength. In a single war, both Arthedain and Angmar came to an end.
So anyway, that's how Middle-earth lore ended. Basically, it took way too
After the
freaking much
defeat
time.
of Angmar,